Part 59. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 581. However, Wang Feng did not want to take action against the 12 people now. He had to wait until tomorrow when the emotions of the guys in front of him stabilized. The flames finally died out slowly. Nicholas led a few people to collect the ashes. Watching them collect the ashes, the people around them suddenly felt sad. These people died, and there were still people collecting their ashes. When he died in the future, he didn't know if he would not even have ashes left. Wang Feng slowly walked through the crowd and came to the high platform in the center of the square. He picked up the microphone, turned on the switch, and said to the survivors below, "You should have seen what happened today. I won't say much about why this happened. Think about it carefully. We will not fight today. Let's give you a day to rest. Starting tomorrow, whether it is cloudy or sunny, we will attack. If it is cloudy, we will be near the entrance and exit. If it is sunny, we will all go out and sweep the entire city. I can say with certainty that in the future, some of us will die. As for how many people will die, or whether you will be one of the dead, it depends on whether you can figure out today where your mistakes are today. Now, let's disperse." Wang Feng dropped the microphone and said weakly. The survivors in the square looked at each other and finally left. There are nearly 250,000 awakened people in the underground fortress now. Even in this huge underground square, it seems very crowded. Therefore, the awakened people now go back to their assigned residences to rest every day, unlike the beginning when there were only a few thousand people and they simply fought together in the square for a night. After all the survivors left, Wang Feng summoned Xiao Wu and the others to his side, and after thinking for a while, he said, "Now the defense force here is basically no problem, especially after what happened today. I believe they will know to be more careful in the future. We don't know how many dark bloodthirsty people Chris has now, so we have to speed up the progress. In another 8 months, the Devourer will descend on our planet. We don't have time to waste now. So, I'm going to go out alone and go to Chris's lair to find out the situation. You stay here and continue to lead them to fight the dark bloodthirsty people. Remember, speed up, but pay attention to safety, don't let the ambush like today happen again. In normal battles, it doesn't matter if some people die. There will always be deaths in wars, but I don't want any team to be wiped out. As for the specific combat methods, you can let them arrange it themselves. You will see tomorrow if the weather is sunny, go out and clean up the dark bloodthirsters in each building. If it is cloudy, attract the dark bloodthirsters at the door as before, but remember not to leave the door too far, and don't go out too many at a time. You can go out in batches. Those who go out should go all out. Come back before they run out of energy and replace the next batch of people. This way, the speed will be faster and safer. That's about all you can pay attention to. I'll be ready to leave soon. I'll leave it to you here. In addition, tomorrow, you will also put the 12 who didn't get the awakening potion into the battle sequence. We have no obligation to keep them for nothing. If they disagree, drive them out." Xiao Wu and others nodded and didn't say anything. Although they didn't hear what the 12 people said, they still knew Wang Feng better. They knew that if nothing happened, Wang Feng would definitely not suddenly think of them and use them as a scapegoat. Wang Feng thought about it carefully again and found that there was nothing to say, so he stood up, took a deep breath, patted several people on the shoulders, turned around and walked towards a branch entrance. Looking at Wang Feng's back, Xiao Wu and others couldn't help but show a worried look on their faces. Although Wang Feng was very powerful and the dark bloodthirsty were not his opponents at all, Wang Feng was still a human being after all, and his physical strength always had a limit. Moreover, the dark bloodthirsty outside were almost endless. Once Wang Feng was surrounded by them, he would probably be exhausted to death. However, Wang Feng's decision would basically not be changed. They knew that it would be useless to persuade him, so they simply didn't speak. After arriving at the entrance at the edge of the city, Wang Feng asked Zhang Ru how to open the entrance and exit, and then flashed out directly. He deliberately chose an entrance in the opposite direction of Chris's nest. He originally thought that there should be no dark bloodthirsty guarding here, but after coming out, he found that there were more than 100 dark bloodthirsty around. Wang Feng couldn't help but be a little surprised. Could it be that the number of dark bloodthirsty people has really reached this level? How could there be so many dark bloodthirsty people at the outermost part of the city, or in the opposite direction of Chris's lair? However, since he was discovered, Wang Feng was not polite. Anyway, he was at the outer edge of the city now, so he would kill some first. If there were many dark bloodthirsty people coming to support him later, it would not be too late to run away at that time. However, when rushing into the dark bloodthirsty people, Wang Feng actually found a human. He was stunned, and then overjoyed, because this human was protected in the middle by the dark bloodthirsty people. So even if this guy was not Chris, he must be someone around him. Without saying a word, Wang Feng activated the blast. After killing the two dark bloodthirsty people blocking the way, he came to the human being. Then, Apocalypse placed it on his neck. Looking at the cold light shining on Apocalypse on his neck, the human directly raised his hand and made a few gestures. The dark bloodthirsty people who were about to pounce suddenly stopped. Haha. You are quite smart. You know what to do without me telling you. You are worthy of being a scientist. Wang Feng smiled softly. Mr. Chris, I have been looking for you for a long time. I'm not Chris. The guy who was easily captured by Wang Feng gave a bitter smile, shook his head and said, I'm Johnny, and I was captured by him to transform into this kind of monster, but luckily before my end, I met this guy, so he didn't kill me, but kept me with him to help. This person is Johnny, who was sent out by Chris to observe the goings on here. This guy is not very strong, so even if he is hiding far away, he is afraid of being hurt by the mysterious creatures in the underground fortress, so he is smart, chose the opposite direction to Chris's lair. Because all the dark bloodthirsties rushed into the city from another direction, he thought that the creatures in the underground fortress would definitely focus their attention there, so he would definitely be quite safe here. During this time, Johnny has been observing the underground fortress in this place, and will go back every few days to report the situation here to Chris before returning here. And it was not until today, after Wang Feng and the others fought their way out of the main entrance, that Johnny finally confirmed that the mysterious creature in the underground castle was actually a human being, because the location Johnny chose was on the edge of the city, but due to the angle very good, so from the top of the building next to it, you can just see the main entrance. That ambush was laid by Johnny according to Chris' request. It was originally said that after all the creatures in the company came out, the dark bloodthirsty would rush out, but Wang Feng realized that something was wrong, so chose to retreat. Seeing that the snake that came out was about to slip back, Johnny couldn't help but command the dark bloodthirsty beside him, asking him to go over and tell the dark bloodthirsty over there to directly launch an ambush, because with the dark bloodthirsty's IQ, they just know that they will not attack until all the creatures inside come out or reach a certain number. Now that both conditions have not been met, of course they will not appear. In other words, if it were not for Johnny, no one would die today. But fortunately, this is the edge of the city. Even if the dark bloodthirsty is fast, it will take a while to run over, so the survivors on Wang Feng's side can run back more and lose fewer people. Originally, Johnny just went back yesterday and did not need to go back today, but today he discovered that the people in the underground fortress were actually humans. This news must be known to Chris as soon as possible so that we can discuss countermeasures. Moreover, Johnny has also observed that among these humans, among them, the only ones who are particularly powerful are those few Easterners, and the others are not a problem. Because of this, after the main entrance door was closed, Johnny observed for a while, and after confirming that the survivors who had just lost a group of people would not come out again today, he prepared to leave and go back to tell the new discovery. Chris. As a result, as soon as this unlucky guy came down from the building where he was hiding, he happened to encounter Wang Feng, who also happened to come out of the entrance and exit, and there was no room for him to escape at all. At this moment, Johnny regretted greatly. If he had known that he was up there just now, he would not have waited for that moment, so that he would not be caught. In fact, no matter whether he was earlier or later, he would not be discovered by Wang Feng. I can only say that this boy's luck is really good. Of course he knew Wang Feng, and knew that he was one of the most powerful Easterners he had paid special attention to just now. Now that so many of them had just died, even if Wang Feng didn't know that he had given the order to attack, Johnny reckons he's also in trouble. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 582. Looking at Johnny's fearful eyes, Wang Feng frowned, because he found that Johnny's strength was very low, and he was actually only a third-level enhancer. Those guys who had been transformed by Chris had surpassed the awakened ones, have reached the realm of fifth-level creatures. Why is this guy's strength so low? After Wang Feng thought about it, he turned around and looked at the dark bloodthirsty people surrounding him, and said to Johnny, "Keep them away, otherwise I don't mind killing them first. You'd better believe me have this strength." Wang Feng has not been to the building next to him, so he naturally doesn't know that at such a far place, the angle is just right for him to see the main entrance of the underground fortress, so he doesn't know that Johnny has been there all the time. Watch them here. But Johnny knew clearly that when Wang Feng showed off his power at the main entrance just now, he could clearly see it, so he naturally knew that Wang Feng was not bragging. This was why he quickly acted as soon as he was controlled. The reason why those dark bloodthirsty men stop attacking with hand signals. Because he knew that even if these dark bloodthirsty people took action, they would not be able to save him at all, but might even kill him. Now after hearing Wang Feng's words, he immediately raised his hand and made two gestures, and those dark bloodthirsty people turned outwards. He stepped away, but still refused to leave, watching them from a distance. Wang Feng put away Tiankai, then sat down on a stone pier next to him, then looked at Johnny and said, "What strength is Chris?" This is what Wang Feng is most concerned about. Johnny's strength is too low. It's possible that Chris is worried about him, so he doesn't want to improve his strength. But if Chris's strength is also very low, then he needs to rely on him to unlock the seal. Hope may be slim. The reason is very simple. If Chris has researched the seal, then even if he can't unlock it all, there should be no problem at least breaking through a little bit. In addition, he must have a strength-enhancing potion similar to his own awakening potion. This can be seen from those dark bloodthirsties, so his own strength should be able to reach a very high level. After hearing Wang Feng's question, Johnny shook his head and said, "Chris's strength is lower than mine." What? Wang Feng, who had just sat down, couldn't help but jump up. How could this happen? Doesn't he have a potion to improve his strength? Don't tell me, these guys had this kind of strength before they were transformed by him. As he spoke, Wang Feng pointed at the dark bloodthirsty people who were 50 or 60 meters away from them. It is true that Chris used potions to improve their strength, but the cost of improving their eyesight is to consume their vitality. Of course, Chris will not use this kind of potion for himself, and he feels that it seems to be using the strengthening fluid in the zombie's brain can also have side effects on the human body, so he never uses it himself. Johnny explained, "We have been researching a potion that can enhance human strength without side effects, but the required substance is too difficult to find. We only have a few very strong people. It has been extracted from the body of a powerful mutant beast. However, after this period of research, that substance has basically been consumed. So recently, we originally planned to try to let those dark bloodthirsty people go to see if they can reach other continents, but because your appearance disrupted our plans." "You mean, if there are enough of the substance you are talking about, you will be able to enhance human strength without limit. Wang Feng's eyes lit up and he asked quickly. Of course he knew the substance Johnny was talking about. What it is must be the origin of life. He has never lacked this kind of thing. Unlimited should be impossible. Johnny shook his head, then looked around, sat on a stone pier diagonally opposite Wang Feng, and then continued, I chatted with Chris when we were free. It has been mentioned before that there is a mysterious power in human beings that suppresses human beings and prevents them from exerting their true strength. If this mysterious power can be unlocked, then the strength of human beings will increase explosively, and they can even have the ability to destroy the world. However, due to insufficient research materials, there is no way to try to find that for the time being. A mysterious power. If I can provide you with the material you need, how long do you think it will take you to find that mysterious power and unlock it? Wang Feng looked at Johnny and asked. What? This time it was Johnny's turn to jump up. Regardless of his status as a prisoner, he came directly to Wang Feng, stared into his eyes and said, You said you could provide that kind of material, how much can it provide? The substance you are talking about is actually another form of life energy, but it is more advanced than biological energy. I call it the origin of life. Wang Feng first explained the origin of life, and then he said. This thing, as long as I am given time to recover, basically I can get as much as I need, because I have that kind of substance in my body, and there is even a more advanced one in my body, which I call the substance of the life core. That is, because of the life core, even if the life source in my body is consumed, it can be slowly restored. Wang Feng said all the core of life and the origin of life in one breath, because from Johnny's words, he felt that it was still possible for Chris to break the seal, but they lacked the origin of life. This happens to be something I can provide in large quantities. Johnny was stunned by Wang Feng's words. It took him a while to react. He stepped forward and grabbed Wang Feng and said, Quick! Come with me, you will definitely make a huge breakthrough in our research. Wait! Wang Feng slapped Johnny's hand away, then pointed in the direction of the main entrance of the underground fortress and said, You ask those guys to stop attacking first, and then I will follow you to find Chris. Huh? Johnny was stunned for a moment, then woke up and quickly shook his head. That's impossible. These guys belong to Chris, not mine. I only have limited command authority and can command them on a small scale, and the premise is that the goals of the orders given to them by Chris are consistent. Limited command authority? Wang Feng asked with a frown. Well, that is to say, the orders I gave them must be carried out by them without violating the orders Chris gave them. The task these guys got was to surround this place and wait for an opportunity to attack. Try to kill them all. So I can direct them from where to attack, or when to attack, and ask them to retreat or not attack you. This conflicts with Chris's order. They will not carry out my order, and may even kill you. Drop me. Chris doesn't believe me. It's just because I was a scientist before the end of the world, and the research topics are somewhat related to Chris's research, so I was pulled over to be his assistant. Having said this, Johnny pointed at the dark bloodthirsty people standing around and continued, What I can fully command are the dark bloodthirsty people around me who were sent by Chris to protect me. As for the others, there is nothing I can do. Wang Feng thought for a while, then shook his head and said helplessly, Okay then. Let's set off now and go directly to find Chris. He originally wanted Johnny to evacuate all the dark bloodthirsters surrounding the bunker so that he could drive the hurricane out and then drive to Chris' lair. But now it seems that this idea is completely unfeasible, but anyway, even if the dark bloodthirsty people stay here and continue to surround the underground fortress, the people inside can handle it, at least they will not break the fortress. So Wang Feng decided to go see Chris first, believing that with the temptation of the origin of life, Wang Feng should be able to reach an agreement with Chris. In fact, strictly speaking, Chris is a super executioner, his hands are covered with blood. Those dark bloodthirsty people he created, including those who died in the hands of the dark bloodthirsty people, are equal to the killings he caused. But now, because of the shadow of the Devourer and the fact that the people he killed were all people on the Zizhu continent, Wang Feng didn't have much resistance to cooperating with Chris. You must know that unlocking the seal will ensure the continuation of mankind. The best hope is that everything else can be put aside for now. Okay. Let's set off now. After Johnny heard Wang Feng's words, he was even more anxious than Wang Feng, and immediately led the way. However, he still walked to the old nest with Chris, which was the hard place. Squeeze in the opposite direction of the country. Wang Feng was wondering when he saw Johnny running directly into a building. After a while, he drove out in a very powerful off-road vehicle. Only then did Wang Feng realize that this guy was still there are transportation tools. But it makes sense to think about it. Although Chris asked the Dark Bloodthirsty to destroy all the vehicles outside, there must be a lot of vehicles and fuel in his own lair. Looking at the sweat donkey off-road vehicle driven by Johnny, Wang Feng couldn't help but nodded. This is a specialty of Majah's Hong's country. It is exclusively used by the military. Although it is not as good as Hurricane, it is still pretty good. One car. Wang Feng jumped onto the off-road vehicle without saying a word, and then the off-road vehicle turned around and sped away towards Chris's home amidst the flying dust. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 583. Looking back at the more than 100 dark bloodthirsty people who were following the off-road vehicle, Wang Feng couldn't help but shook his head. These guys were simply the worst bodyguards in the world. They didn't even have to sit in the car. But looking back at Johnny, who was driving the car, looking nervous and excited, with an expression of expectation and longing, Wang Feng couldn't help but worry about himself again. This guy should have a driver's license, right? After running wildly on the road for more than 8 hours, the off-road vehicle finally arrived at Chris's home. The journey that originally took a day was shortened by more than half by Johnny, but what I mentioned before was the Evolver or the Awakener. The speed of walking on foot is naturally much faster than that of a car. Although some people may run faster than cars in a short period of time, in terms of endurance, humans and machines are incomparable. Even Johnny's bodyguards are far behind. Parking the car at the entrance of the underground fortress, Johnny looked at Wang Feng and said, "You have to wait here first, because you are very strong and Chris is very wary, so I have to go with him. Let's talk about it first, but don't worry, as long as you can really show the life source you mentioned, I believe he will be very friendly to you." "Are you friendly?" Wang Feng looked at the countless dark bloodthirsty people around him who were eyeing him eagerly, shrugged his shoulders and said, "I can see that. This is Chris's home base, so of course it is also a concentration camp for dark bloodthirsties. At least there are tens of thousands of dark bloodthirsties that Wang Feng has seen now, and Wang Feng knows that there are many dark bloodthirsty people hiding in dark places and underground fortresses. I'm afraid there will be more." However, Wang Feng had nothing to worry about. He took out a bottle of life potion directly from the apocalypse space. He also took out a copy of the Devourer's information and handed it to Johnny. "Give this to Chris, I'm sure he'll be friendlier." Johnny took the information and potion, then looked at the bottle of potion with some excitement, then held it carefully in his hand, then jumped out of the car and entered the underground fortress. In fact, this city should be absolutely safe for Chris, but it may be because his laboratory was underground before, and he has long been accustomed to underground life, so here, he still lives in the dark underground. In the fortress, they refused to move to the ground, although those buildings were much better than the environment in the underground fortress. Johnny took the information and medicine and ran towards Chris's laboratory at almost the fastest speed he could achieve. After seeing Chris, Johnny's first action was to hand over the bottle of medicine. He asked Chris and said, "Hurry up and analyze the liquid inside to see what it is." Although he felt a little strange that Johnny came back today, and Johnny's tone of voice when speaking to him was not as respectful as usual, but out of his understanding of Johnny, Chris did not get angry, but instead took it seriously. The bottle of life potion was then opened carefully, first put it under the nose and smelled it gently, then poured out a little of the liquid inside, and then began to analyze it on the instrument. When the result appeared, Chris almost jumped up. He immediately turned around and grabbed Johnny's collar and shouted, "Where did you get this? Do you still have it? This is exactly what I need." "Chris, be quiet and listen to me," Johnny patted Chris's hand and said helplessly. "Tell me slowly. Do you know what you brought back? How important is it to our research?" Chris said the sentence almost roaring. "Okay, Chris. This thing should be there, but you have to calm down and listen to me first," Johnny said. "Okay. You should be as brief as possible. It's best to tell directly how you got this small bottle." Chris's voice finally dropped. "The mysterious creatures in the underground fortress have come out. I saw them today, but they are not aliens or other weird creatures, but humans," Johnny began to say. "Shit," after hearing Johnny's words, Chris couldn't help but jump up again, and even uttered a curse word. "I told you to keep it as short as possible. Why don't you just say that there are humans in that underground fortress? If you still dare to make up the word count like this, I will turn you into an angel of redemption." The redemption angel in Chris's mouth was the dark bloodthirsty. Johnny didn't want to be like them, although the redemption angel sounded really cool, so he quickly continued. "Those people in the underground fortress, there are several Easterners who are quite powerful, and they seem to be their leaders. This bottle of medicine was given to me by one of the Easterners, and he said that as long as he is given enough time, he will basically unlimited supply." "Where are the people?" Seeing that Johnny was going to continue talking, Chris couldn't help but speak again, interrupted him directly, and asked the key point, "Where were the people?" "It's just outside. I brought him back, but because he was very strong, I didn't dare to bring him down directly, so I asked him to wait outside," Johnny said quickly. "Now do you think you should let him come down?" Chris didn't hesitate at all and blurted out, "Are you asking me about this trivial matter? I guess the contents of this bottle are in his body. Just kill this guy and bring the body back to me, that's it. Don't. He is very strong. If he runs away, he may not be able to catch him. Moreover, he said that this thing is called the source of life. He has this substance in his body, and it can be replenished after consumption. If he kills, it may not be possible to replenish it." Johnny quickly stopped and said, "Besides, he came to cooperate with us. On the way back, we chatted for a while. He also knew about the mysterious power in the human body. He called it a seal. This time from Dongzhou I came here just to find you, to see if you can find a way to unlock this seal." "Asshole. You idiot. Why didn't you just say something like this?" Chris seemed to be grumpy because his research had made no progress. Hearing Korodai's words, Johnny had a look on his face and thought to himself, "This is not what you just said. Let me be as brief as possible and not make up the word count. It's better now. I blame me for not making it clear. Who am I messing with? Who?" However, Johnny just thought about this and said that he would definitely not dare to say it, so he could only continue to ask, then, "Let him come in. Come in, come in. You go pick him up now, and I will continue to study it." After Chris said that, he kicked Johnny out, and then continued to study the bottle of life potion. When Johnny brought Wang Feng down, Chris was still busy at his workbench, but when he felt someone coming in, Chris immediately put down his work and looked at Wang Feng. "How many of these do you have?" Chris didn't even talk to Wang Feng and got to the point. "If your answer satisfies me, I can at least guarantee that you will never lack this thing during your research." Wang Feng was not polite, looked at Chris and said. "My question is, how confident are you that you can unlock the seal in our human body without lacking the core of life?" "Certain? At least 80% or more," Chris said after thinking for a while. "That's enough, we can be allies for the time being." Wang Feng nodded and said, "However, I think you should take a look at the information in Johnny's hand first." Johnny just handed the Devourer information to Chris along with the bottle of potion, but Chris was obviously not interested in the document, so he didn't take the information at all, but only took the small bottle. Hearing Wang Feng's words, Chris was stunned for a moment, but when he saw Wang Feng's face with a very serious expression, after hesitating for a moment, Chris grabbed the information from Johnny's hand, and then lowered his head to look at it. Got up. In the end, it doesn't matter. What was said above made Chris's face, which was still very excited and anxious just now, suddenly darken. Because if what is said in this information is true, then those dark and bloodthirsty men under his they may not be able to resist the Devourers who far exceed them in terms of quantity and quality. In other words, if the current situation develops, their lives will only be 8 months. "What do you mean?" Chris looked at Wang Feng and asked. "It's very simple. Let's work together. I will provide you with enough life source, and you will devote all your efforts to research on breaking the seal. Whether you can make yourself stronger after the Devourer comes depends on the results of your research." Wang Feng said with a serious expression. "They will arrive on our planet in 8 months. If the seal cannot be unlocked before they arrive, our planet may be destroyed. By then, don't say you are hiding in this underground fortress. Even if you are hiding, going into the core of our planet probably won't improve your chances of survival much." "You mean, the origin of life? That is enough for me to study." Chris' eyes lit up and he stared at Wang Feng and asked. "That's right," Wang Feng nodded and said, "you can use it with confidence." As he said that, Wang Feng waved his hand, and several bottles of life potion appeared in his palm, and then said, "Because we have to wait for the recovery of the origin of life, so I can only provide you with these every day, but it should be enough for you, right?" "Ha ha ha ha. Okay. I'll start right away," Chris said loudly, his face full of excitement. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 584. Wang Feng was a little surprised to see Chris agree so readily. He thought Chris would at least put forward some conditions before agreeing to his request. Wang Feng didn't know that even without the information about the Devourer, Chris would have been anxious a long time ago, because his research had not made any significant progress, so his own strength could not be improved at all. Although he had a large number of dark bloodthirsty men as his subordinates, no one in the Western continent could compete with him, but that was not his own strength after all, and the life of the dark bloodthirsty men was very short. Chris had thought about breaking through from other aspects, so he once asked the dark bloodthirsty men to go out and catch some powerful mutant beasts and bring them back, wanting to try whether he could transform the mutant beasts into subordinates who obeyed his orders like the dark bloodthirsty men. However, the body structure of animals is completely different from that of humans, and Chris is only an expert in human genetics. Although he has also dabbled in animals, it is not his strong point after all. So Chris's idea of taming mutant beasts ended in failure, but he found the origin of life in a level 5 mutant beast during the research and experiment, and this discovery gave Chris a shot of confidence. With the origin of life, his research finally began to make progress again, but because Chris rose too early on the Western continent, the rampant dark bloodthirsty people greatly suppressed the development space of all creatures in the Western continent. So although Chris had been asking the dark bloodthirsty people to desperately look for mutant beasts in the later period, after all, only the level 5 mutant beasts can have the origin of life, and level 5 mutant beasts are too rare on the Western continent. This also led to the fact that Chris's research had just made a breakthrough, but it stagnated again due to the lack of the origin of life. When Chris was about to find a way to open up the sea route and go to other continents to find some advanced mutant beasts, Wang Feng and his people appeared, and directly brought a sense of crisis to Chris, tied down a large number of his subordinates, and directly stranded his plan to go to sea. Now the person who brought him a sense of crisis was standing in front of him, and he had also reached an alliance with him. More importantly, he finally didn't have to worry about the origin of life anymore. As long as he had enough origin of life, he would have the confidence to find that mysterious power and break that damn seal. Since Chris had agreed and seemed very confident, Wang Feng's heart finally fell. He originally planned to come out this time just to investigate Chris's lair first, to see how many dark bloodthirsty people he had, so that he could have a clear idea. Unexpectedly, Johnny was caught as soon as he came out, and everything went so smoothly. Wang Feng suddenly remembered his underground fortress, so he quickly stopped Chris, who was about to start working with the potion, and said, "Wait. You take back all your dark bloodthirsty people first. We must try our best to preserve the power of mankind and cannot lose it anymore." Dark bloodthirsty people, Chris was stunned, and then shouted, "That's my angel of salvation. Not some dark bloodthirsty people, they represent the light of mankind. You can't even see the sun, and you still represent light." Perhaps because he saw the hope of lifting the ban, Yang Feng's mood also improved. "Okay. No matter what they are called, you just take them back first." "Okay," Chris nodded. Since he had the source of life, he didn't care about the survivors outside. However, he still muttered, "With such weak strength, it's better for me to transform it. At least when fighting against the Devourer, it is stronger than those trash." "Haha. Take this and study it." Wang Feng took out another potion. This is an evolution potion made with Chris's blood. Wang Feng did not intend to let Chris become an evolver or awakener now. This guy is just an enhancer. To become an awakener, he must sleep for at least 20 days. It is a waste of time. Anyway, there are so many dark bloodthirsty people protecting him. Even if he doesn't stay here, this guy's safety will not be a problem. With the power Chris has now, I am afraid that no one can really threaten him before the Devourer comes. Wang Feng is now his collaborator, and the other survivors don't have that ability at all. Chris took the evolution potion, looked at it and asked, "What is this?" "This is a potion I made using my superpowers. It can make you an evolver directly without any side effects. I call it an evolution potion. In addition, I also have an awakening potion that can make people awakened." Wang Feng explained lightly that this was the bait he threw to Chris. This guy has not been able to improve his strength until now, and I believe this potion should be attractive to him. And now Wang Feng is not very clear about the principle of Tiankai making this potion, so he also wants Chris to analyze it. Maybe it will help to unlock the seal. Chris's eyes lit up, and then he opened the bottle and smelled it, but he didn't drink it directly. Chris is cautious. He won't use it easily without thoroughly analyzing this bottle of potion, no matter how good it is. You can analyze it and see if this potion has any side effects while improving human strength. However, I want to remind you that no matter what the result is, you should not use it now, because after drinking it, you will sleep for 10 days. Only by doing this can you become an evolver, so you should conduct your research first and then talk about it after you have the results. Wang Feng reminded Chris. "At least I can promise that I will provide you not only the evolution potion, but also the awakening potion. And if your research results are very good and can truly unlock the seal in our bodies, then the effect of using the potion will definitely be better." "I know." Chris closed the lid, then waved over a team of about 100 dark bloodthirsty people. He gestured to them a few times, and then, these dark bloodthirsties turned around and ran out. "Okay. I'll ask them to summon all the redemption angels in Zizhu continent. They will be active here in the future and will no longer go out to arrest people or kill people. But except for you, If anyone else dares to enter, don't blame me if my city is torn apart by them. After Chris finished speaking, he turned around and ran to a pile of instruments and started to get busy. After Johnny glanced at Wang Feng, he also walked over to help. Wang Feng looked left and right and found that staying here seemed to have no effect. Moreover, the work of Chris and the others will definitely not be completed in a short time, or even in a few days or weeks, so Wang Feng asked Chris, "I want to leave now, will your angels attack me?" Chris, who was busy, didn't even raise his head. He waved his hand to indicate that Wang Feng could leave, and then continued his work. Wang Feng shook his head. Now he finally found some traces of scientists in this Chris. Dr. Gu Changsheng in the Hope Base was like this when he was working, and sometimes he didn't even react at all. "Here you go." Turning around and walking out of the underground fortress, the dark bloodthirsty people along the way actually never attacked Wang Feng. This made Wang Feng feel very strange because he had seen the way Chris issued orders to these dark bloodthirsty people before. Let Wang Feng know that Chris does not rely on mental control to control these dark bloodthirsty people. So how could he make these dark bloodthirsty people so obedient? After shaking his head, Wang Feng put this somewhat puzzling question behind him. Anyway, even if he figured it out, it would not be of much help to him, so he simply didn't think about it. In addition to the underground fortress, Wang Feng looked around and found a place to store fuel. Then he filled up the fuel tank of the off-road vehicle that Johnny had driven before, and then drove the off-road vehicle towards his underground fortress. The fort sails away. At this time, more than 10 hours had passed since he had just set off from the underground fortress, and it was still night. But now that he and Chris had reached an alliance, there was no difference between night or day for Wang Feng. On the way back, Wang Feng also discovered Johnny's dutiful bodyguards. These guys were still running wildly on the road, although they had not yet encountered the dark bloodthirsty sent by Chris, attacking humans from outside. However, because Johnny had given them an order not to attack Wang Feng before, and the order had not been cancelled yet, when they saw that Wang Feng was the only one in the car, they hesitated, but did not launch an attack. They continued on their way to find their master. Because Wang Feng was not in a hurry now, he didn't drive as fast as when Johnny came back, so it took him 10 hours to return to his underground fortress. Because he knew that Chris' order had not been conveyed to the dark bloodthirsty people here so quickly, Wang Feng still made a circle and parked the car near the entrance where he started. It is now close to noon, but it is still cloudy today, but the cloudy weather is good news for Wang Feng. At least, this kind of weather will not affect the transmission speed of the order that Chris issued before. After getting out of the car, he came to the entrance and exit door, and after asking Zhang Ru how to open the door, Wang Feng stepped into the underground fortress. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 585. When Wang Feng entered the underground fortress, the battle between the survivors and the dark bloodthirsty people at the other exits of the underground fortress had already begun in full swing. The two sides who were fighting did not know about the cooperation between Wang Feng and Chris, so for them, the other side was still an enemy and they had to kill more, and they had to kill more. Kill one less. Wang Feng obviously knew about this matter, but he didn't care about it now. He was thinking about how to tell the survivors of the Western continent that he had reached an agreement with Chris and the two sides were about to cease fire. The number of people killed by Chris was countless. Even if he didn't kill many people personally, the survivors of the Western continent must have kept the blood debt on his head. It is impossible for them to only hate the dark bloodthirsty people under his command. Wang Feng was from the Eastern continent, so he didn't have much resistance to Chris, but it would be a bit difficult to let the survivors of the Western continent easily accept this fact. Especially those guys in the underground fortress. The survivors in other places are fine. They should thank God that the dark bloodthirsty people don't look for them, but the survivors in the underground fortress are different. Their strength has been improved now, and their combat experience is also growing rapidly. They have been training for nearly a month, just to slaughter the dark bloodthirsty people, and then break into Chris's lair and capture him alive. If Chris came to Wang Feng as a captive to do experiments, the guys in the Western continent might be able to accept it, but now it is a cooperative relationship, and the status of both parties is the same. This should be difficult for the survivors in the Western continent to accept. And Wang Feng doesn't want to use the continuation of mankind, the key to unlocking the seal, and the hope for this planet, etc. these big truths to convince them, because in fact everyone can talk about big truths, and almost everyone who is a little better at speaking can talk about it with confidence. The premise is that what he talks about cannot happen to him. It makes sense if it is not his business. Humans are emotional creatures. We cannot generalize everything. Double standards exist in everyone, without exception. If someone has a terminal illness, when you visit him, you will definitely say, "Don't worry. He will definitely get better," and will give many strong examples, or where there are successful treatment cases. When you leave, you will also say, "Don't worry. Rest assured. Recover from the illness." Of course you are relieved, because it is not you lying in the bed. If it were you, would you use what you just said to comfort yourself? Wang Feng is the same. If the people who become dark bloodthirsty people are people in the Hope Base, such as Duan Lei and Lu Wanting, will Wang Feng still cooperate with Chris? Kidding. If everyone he knows is dead, then no matter how many other people there are, what does it have to do with Wang Feng? Don't you want to take revenge, but also try your best to help the person who killed your relatives to complete his research and save the world? Wang Feng is not that great. He is a human being, not a god. Saints do not exist. As long as he is still a human being, he has someone to protect in his heart. This person may be different at each stage of life, but there will definitely be one. From the perspective of an observer, you can make arbitrary comments, criticize or accuse casually, and even say, "If it were me, I would do this and that," but please remember that for the person involved, your words are no different except that they are louder and longer than farts. So Wang Feng is now worried about how to let those guys in the underground fortress who have built up confidence and are ready to kill the dark bloodthirsty and rush into Chris's lair put down their hatred. Unfortunately, Wang Feng didn't think of any good way until he reached the underground hall. He couldn't help but sigh, thinking that it would be great if Duan Lei was here. It's not that Duan Lei can definitely come up with the best of both worlds method, but he can throw this headache directly to Duan Lei, so at least he doesn't have to worry so much. Because it was cloudy, today's battle was only carried out at the entrance and exit of the underground fortress, so a large number of survivors who were preparing to replace or had been replaced stayed in the hall. Looking at these survivors who greeted him one after another, Wang Feng suddenly felt very irritated. He directly called Xiao Wu, who was supervising the battle at the door, on the intercom and asked him to withdraw all the people, announce the end of today's battle, and call Qingxun and Qianqian back by the way. The couple has been staying outside as manual surveillance for almost a month, which can be said to be quite hard. Fortunately, they are zombies, so they don't need to sleep, but I don't know if they still need Tko now. Wang Feng was very strange. Now he actually had the mood to think about whether there was still that kind of relationship between the couple. He couldn't help but shook his head secretly, but his face was still very ugly. Hearing Wang Feng's order, Xiao Wu was a little confused, but seeing that Wang Feng seemed to be in a bad mood, he didn't dare to ask more, and quickly summoned all the survivors at the three entrances, including Qingxun and Qianqian. When everyone came in, they all came to the underground hall, because Xiao Wu had a premonition that Wang Feng might have some bad news to announce. Standing on the high platform in the middle, looking at the survivors surrounding him below, Wang Feng was silent for more than 10 minutes. But the people below, because they didn't know what happened, no one spoke, but all of them were silent. He looked at Wang Feng nervously. Because it can be seen from Wang Feng's face that what Wang Feng is going to say will definitely not be a good thing. In addition, as soon as Wang Feng comes back, he orders to cancel today's battle and take back everyone. No matter how you think about it, this is a sign of a huge crisis that is about to happen. Could it be that the Devourer has arrived in advance? Such thoughts suddenly popped into the minds of most of the survivors present. Everyone. I was thinking about it on the way back. Wang Feng finally spoke. He put the microphone to his mouth and said slowly. What I was thinking about was how to persuade you, but I thought about it for more than 10 hours and couldn't figure it out, because I know that if I were you, I would only have one sentence: nothing I say will work. So I have decided to give up now. I won't persuade you or make any excuses. I will just tell you everything that happened after I went out yesterday. Afterwards, Wang Feng told everything that happened after he went out yesterday, from catching Johnny, to reaching an agreement with Chris, until he returned. After finishing speaking, Wang Feng paused, turned around, looked at the survivors around him, and then continued, "You all know that I came from Dongzhou continent. Dongzhou continent has me base, with my family and friends. It's because of them that I traveled across the ocean and came here under the siege of countless mutant beasts. They are the people I am willing to protect at all costs. Now Chris is our hope. Only by unlocking the seal can we resist the Devourer army and survive, so I reached an agreement with him because he is an expert in this field. I know that many of you may have relatives or friends who either died at the hands of the dark bloodthirsty he created, or were turned into dark bloodthirsties by him. You must have a deep hatred for him. I don't want to say anything. I understand your feelings, but you must put the overall situation first and the survival of mankind first, because I do understand your feelings. If you change, it's me, I won't care so much. As long as I have the strength, I will go up and kill him first and take my revenge. But I am not you, and if anyone among you wants to do this, I will try my best to stop it, because our positions are different. Your relatives and friends may be gone, but mine are still there. Chris may be able to give me the power to protect them, then I have to protect him first. Although he has killed countless people before, I don't know those people, so in my eyes, although he is a heinous devil, but I have no hatred for him. If he can't break the seal and is of no use to me, I will kill him without hesitation, but now that he can, I will protect him. I don't care if you think what I did is right or wrong. I have never claiming to be a good person, I only know that I want to protect the people I care about at all costs. Okay. That's all I have to say. In addition, after today, you can go out and live on the ground. Of course, you can stay here if you want. All the dark bloodthirsty people will be recalled soon. From now on, at least while I am still here, I will not come out to arrest or kill people again. They will always stay in Chris's lair. As long as you don't enter that city, there will be no danger. Of course, if you want revenge, you can go there, but, before Chris's research results come out, if he is really in danger, my people and I will help him. After Wang Feng finished speaking, he threw the microphone on the ground, because he felt that he would not need this thing in the future. The crowd was silent at first, and then began to whisper. After a long time, Nicholas slowly came to Wang Feng, stared at him for a long time, and then said, "What if? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 586. Nicholas's expression was a little hesitant, but Wang Feng seemed to have guessed what he wanted to say, so he smiled softly and said, "If you have anything to say, just say it. I said I want to protect Chris, but I just want him to help me figure out how to do it. Unlocking the seal does not mean that we will become enemies. I want to say." Nicholas finally gritted his teeth, and then said, If Chris figures out how to unlock the seal, will you protect him again after you get the method? Of course not. My cooperation with him is limited to the source of life I gave him, which is the potion I provided to you, and he used those potions to study how to find the mysterious power and break the seal. Once he succeeds, our cooperation will end. Wang Feng said without hesitation. However, when that time comes, I probably won't fall out again. After I get the method to break the seal, I will turn around and deal with him. At most, I can only do it without helping each other. That's enough, Nicholas said, and then he smiled bitterly and said, actually, I was alone before the end of the world, and Liana only met after the end of the world, so my relationship with Chris may be similar to yours, but Liana's husband was captured by the dark bloodthirsty. According to her, she will never give up on her temper and hatred. I understand. I won't stop you from taking revenge, but it's best to wait for a while. At least, during this period of peace, you can first gather everyone in Zizhu continent and bring us here. Let's build the city well. Wang Fen nodded and said, whether it is to deal with Chris or for yourselves, it is necessary to have a safe and stable living environment, and you can also take advantage of this period to quickly store food, but there should be no zombie corpses to use as fertilizer. Trouble. There are a lot of dark bloodthirsty corpses in my space. They should be useful. I will find a place for them up there tomorrow and put them all there. As for your affairs, you can arrange it yourself. Yes. I understand. Thank you for everything you have done for us before. Nicholas looked at Wang Feng gratefully and said. Although his face was full of gratitude, his words represented the position of the survivors. Thank you for what you did before, that is, after. Wang Feng smiled, and then said, you don't need to thank me, you have to remember that in this world, everyone has his own purpose in doing anything, and so do I. If you don't help me, I will too. I won't help you first. I made you stronger just to help me catch Chris, because I need him to help me break the seal. You also know that he has many dark bloodthirsty people. Just us, we can destroy them. Then catching Chris is not impossible, but it will take a lot of time. And what we need most is time, so I chose you. I will make you stronger, and you will help me kill the dark bloodthirsty. You can treat this as a deal. Even after I reached an agreement with Chris, asking him to take back all the dark bloodthirsties and no longer harm the survivors of Zizhu continent, it was also to preserve your power. I hope you can contain them when fighting against the Devourers in the future. They have some troops. So everything I do, whether it's good or bad for you, has my purpose. I help Chris for the same reason. You don't need to be grateful to me or resent me. This is good for everyone. Nicholas was silent for a long time, then nodded slightly, and then turned to find his companions to discuss their future path and how to go. Wang Feng looked at Nicholas's back, which seemed to be suddenly stooped, and sighed lightly. Then he looked at the survivors around him. After looking around, he couldn't help shaking his head and smiling bitterly. Before he said this, the eyes that people looked at him were still filled with fear, respect, and gratitude, as if they regarded him as their leader. But now, they have begun to gather in groups to discuss their future direction. It is estimated that if Wang Feng issues any orders now, they may not be as effective as before. However, Wang Feng didn't feel any sense of loss, and he didn't blame these people for being too practical. The world was like this. Friends could become enemies in an instant, and enemies could become friends in an instant. As long as the benefits are there, the two people who just wanted to fight each other to death will soon become as close as brothers. Wang Feng and Chris are a good example. Although the two of them are not that close, at least yesterday they were enemies, but now they are allies. Fortunately, those dark bloodthirsty people seem to have no emotions. Otherwise, Wang Feng, the guy who killed so many of their companions, suddenly became their ally. I wonder if they would kill Wang Feng. As for the survivors of Zizhu continent, although they are definitely not enemies with Wang Feng and the others now, there should be a certain gap. At least there will not be the same thing as before. Wang Feng can give an order. Take command of all the survivors here. Wang Feng didn't care. He was not originally from the Zizhu continent. He came here just to find Chris. Everything he did was to accomplish this goal, whether it was gathering these survivors or killing the dark bloodthirsty. For this, he will eventually return to his own Dongzhou continent and Hope base. For Zizhu continent, he is destined to be just a passerby and is unlikely to have too many interactions. It's just that Wang Feng's meeting with Chris went too smoothly, so it actually caused him to become somewhat alienated from the survivors of Zizhu continent, which Wang Feng didn't expect. Suddenly, just when Wang Feng was about to jump off the high platform, his eyes froze for a moment. Among the crowd, he unexpectedly discovered the 12 survivors who had not received the medicine. Moreover, none of them were missing and there were no scars on their bodies. And had no intention of ever going to the battlefield. Xiao Wu, come up, Wang Feng said to Xiao Wu, didn't I ask you to incorporate these guys into the battle order? Brother Feng. I incorporated them in, but they refused to go out. They even yelled, saying that you had a grudge because they had questioned you, so you just didn't give them the medicine. This is unfair. They can tolerate it, but now it's not enough to not give them medicine, but they want to kill them, which is too cruel. Xiao Wu looked in the direction Wang Feng pointed and found the 12 survivors, so he said with some embarrassment. These 12 people were crying and making a fuss at the door, which attracted other people to watch. Later, many people begged for mercy for them. I had no choice but to give up on them first in order not to delay the killing of the dark bloodthirsty. Wang Feng secretly shook his head. Xiao Wu was still a child after all, even if he became a zombie. Qiu Jian should be the one to handle this matter. Why not go out? Crying and fussing? Why don't we just grab him and throw him out? What reasoning do you have with this kind of person? But now Wang Feng and the survivors of the Western Zhou continent no longer have the same close relationship as before. Therefore, Wang Feng is not ready to pay attention to these 12 people anymore, even if he kills these 12 people, and no one should stand up for them. But that would only make the survivors of Zizhu feel dissatisfied with themselves. It's not worth it for such a few rubbish. Okay. Let's find a place to rest. We'll leave here tomorrow. I'm not used to living underground. I estimate that after the dark bloodthirsty evacuates tomorrow, they will start to transform the city. I think we should go to Chris. Let's stay here for a while. Wang Feng withdrew his gaze and no longer cared about the 12 people. He was going to find a place to sleep in the underground fortress. It was funny to think about it. It seemed that in the entire underground fortress, they were the only ones who didn't have their own residence, because they have always lived in this underground hall. Just as he was about to leave, Wang Feng remembered that Zhang Ruhao was still controlling the entrance and exit doors in the central control room, so he picked up the walkie-talkie and wanted to call him. However, he suddenly remembered that Zhang Ruhao seemed to be able to open and close the door alone, so he asked the little boy to do it. Wu went to call Nicholas, who was talking to Liana, George, and others. Nicholas came to Wang Feng and just looked at him but did not speak. Wang Feng did not care and said in the same tone as before, Nicholas, go find 2 people and go to the central control room of this underground fortress. Let Zhang Ruhao teach them how to open and close the door. We are not used to living underground here, so after the dark bloodthirsty evacuates tomorrow, we will leave. This underground fortress will be left to you. I think you still need this place. Nicholas looked at Wang Feng, nodded and said, okay. I have been busy for so long. I need to take a good rest today. I will sleep until I wake up naturally tomorrow. No one will call me. As soon as Nicholas finished speaking, Wang Feng stretched and walked past Nicholas. Walked towards an uninhabited passage, and said as he walked, After your people learn it, ask Zhongru how to come directly to us. Xiao, Kiao, Qiujian, Qingxuan, and Qianqian, these 5 people who also came from the East Continent, followed Wang Feng and passed in front of Nicholas one by one. Nicholas stood there silently, looking at them. Behind them, there was silence for a long time, until they disappeared into that passage. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 587. It seemed that even God was blessing the cooperation between Wang Feng and Chris. The next day was still cloudy, and there was still drizzle in the sky. All the dark bloodthirsty people have evacuated because no one was left outside last night, so no one in the underground fortress knows when they left, but no one cares about this. All they care about is the dark bloodthirsty people. Is it really gone? Early in the morning, the survivors in the underground fortress had already ran out. They first opened the main entrance, and then carefully observed the surroundings. They entered the surrounding buildings and searched carefully to confirm that there were no dark bloodthirsty people. After hiding inside, they began to gradually expand the search area. Due to the careful search, more than 200,000 people spent a whole morning to truly confirm that the dark bloodthirsty people had really evacuated, and this city completely belonged to them. Standing silently in the city, letting the drizzle fall on themselves, these survivors of Zizhu continent couldn't even explain how they felt now. When they came to the city, they knew that they should be able to enter the underground fortress here and live safely there for a period of time, but no one expected that in just 1 month, this city would be completely destroyed. It belongs to them. In particular, they have experienced an increase in strength here, and their actual combat experience has also increased significantly. Most of the survivors here have personally killed the dark bloodthirsty people who were previously invincible in their eyes. But the Easterners who brought all this to them are leaving today. They are looking for the sworn enemy in front of them, that madman, Chris, and they have reached an agreement with him. Although they also knew that this agreement was of great significance to the entire human race and even the entire planet, the hatred for Chris in their hearts made them unable to accept this fact for a while. Wang Feng and the others didn't get up until noon. They really woke up naturally. After getting up, they didn't stay in the underground fortress or go to other people to say goodbye. Instead, they went directly into the hurricane parked at the main entrance. Opened directly out of the main entrance. At this time, the survivors were still standing in the rain, thinking about their own thoughts. When they saw the hurricane coming out, everyone's eyes were focused on the hurricane. This time, Wang Feng and the others did not stand or sit on the roof of the hurricane as they were used to, but all stayed in the car. Fortunately, it was raining, which gave them a good reason. However, almost every survivor in Zizhu continent understands what Wang Feng means, even though Wang Feng has told Nicholas before that he has his own purpose in helping them, which is to let them help him kill those dark people of the bloodthirsty. But no matter what, these people have received huge benefits from Wang Feng. There is no doubt about this, and no reason can obliterate it. Now that Wang Feng doesn't come out, he is naturally afraid of embarrassing them. In fact, if Wang Feng and the others really stand on the roof of the hurricane, it is really a question whether these survivors dare to look at Wang Feng and the others. Seeing the hurricane getting further and further away and finally disappearing from their sight, the survivors of Zizhu continent suddenly felt a little depressed in their hearts, as if there was something blocking their hearts, making them feel very awkward. The whole city fell into silence, and only the rustling sound of rain silently decorated the city. If you ask me, I shouldn't let them go. A discordant voice suddenly sounded. It was the 12 survivors who had not received the awakening potion. They gathered together, and after the hurricane completely disappeared, they began to chat unscrupulously, and very loudly, as if they were deliberately trying to let those around you hear it. Oh? Why? Think about it. He has reached an agreement with that Chris now. Who is Chris? He is a lunatic, A murderer. Most of the people in our Zizhu continent have died in his hands, even worse than death. Be uncomfortable. You're right. Birds of a feather flock together, and people flock together. It's definitely not a good thing to be able to cooperate with someone like Chris. Of course. This group of Orientals are also ruthless. Those who came with us were locked away just because they were unwilling to go back to save others. They must have all died in the end. Thousands of them. Just so useless. Yes, it's no different from killing it with his own hands. So, yesterday we should have rushed in while they were sleeping and hacked them to death. No matter how strong they were, there were so many of us that we could pile them up to death. That's right, it's good to let the tiger go back to the mountain. They now have so many dark bloodthirsty people, plus these few powerful and ruthless guys. Our Zizhu continent is probably about to become their world. Then aren't we doomed? It doesn't matter, I guess they will come back. At that time, everyone will work together to kill them. Yes. We must be clear-headed and not be fooled by their small favors. We must kill them next time. None of the surrounding survivors spoke. They just watched the 12 guys quietly, singing and slandering Wang Feng and the others. When they felt that they had been deceived and started to look around, Nicholas slowed down. He walked slowly in front of them. Nicholas. What do you think we are talking about? Seeing Nicholas coming, one of the 12 people came up and asked. Pa. Nicholas waved his right arm and slapped the guy hard, sending the guy flying away. Several teeth covered with blood were scattered in all directions. Immediately afterwards, Nicholas' figure flashed, ba bang bang. The remaining 11 people also received the same treatment. Humph. A bunch of villains. Why didn't you say anything when they were here? No wonder Brother Xiao Wu wanted to organize you into a battle order. It seems that Feng has already figured out who you are. After sending them all away, Nicholas said coldly. Don't think that no one knows your thoughts. Aren't you just holding a grudge because the potion was not given to you? Today is the day when the dark bloodthirsty retreats. It's a good day. I don't want to kill anyone today. But remember, if I hear you dare to comment on those Easterners again, no matter whether it is good or bad, I will kill you. You are not qualified to comment on them at all. Nicholas. You are confused by those Easterners, they. The first guy who was kicked away struggled to get up and staggered towards Nicholas. But just halfway through speaking, he noticed that Nicholas's eyes were narrowed. After looking at him, there was a strong murderous intent in his eyes. He couldn't help but feel shocked and quickly closed his mouth. But it was already too late at this time. Nicholas drew out the sword from his back, and then the sword flashed across his neck. Poof, a big head flew high, and the frightened and desperate eyes on it still seemed to be telling the guy's fear before he died. Who else has something to say? Nicholas turned around and looked at the other 11 people. These guys didn't expect that Nicholas would kill him as soon as he said it, without even saying hello. Each of them suddenly turned pale and covered his face tightly. My mouth never dared to speak again. Nicholas. Just kill all these bastards. If you can't bear to do it, I can do it for you. Smith stood up and said. Yes. Just cut them down. You'll be damned sick after seeing them. You idiots, what do you think we are? Do you think we can be easily incited by you? Kill them. I'm so blind that I actually begged for mercy for them. Yes. I was also cried by them at that time. I almost thought it was Feng Ji who hated them. I am really a pig. Kill. Kill them. Maybe I will feel better and feel less aggrieved. The surrounding survivors spoke one after another, and everyone suggested killing these guys who were causing discord. It was also these 12 guys who were short-sighted and had completely mistimed their provocation. If it had been yesterday, when Wang Feng and the others had just gone back to prepare for bed, they had spread such remarks among the crowd, maybe it would have had an effect. Because at that time, these survivors had just received the news and had no time to analyze it themselves, so the rumors they spread were likely to guide their thinking. But now, they happened to search the entire city and found that what Wang Feng said was true, that all the dark bloodthirsty people would evacuate. Moreover, they thought about it for a long time yesterday and found that no matter how they thought, they could not single out Wang Feng. How could Feng be ashamed of them? In addition, seeing Wang Feng and the others leave, they all felt a sense of loss in their hearts, especially since Wang Feng was very generous and directly told the truth about his cooperation with Chris. There was nothing to hide, even if they hated Chris in their hearts. No matter how deep the meaning is, it cannot be transferred to Wang Feng and the others. Therefore, the performance of these 12 people just now had no effect at all except aggravating the guilt in the hearts of the survivors. Instead, it made them feel that if they killed these people who dared to slander Wang Feng and the others, it seemed that the guilt in their hearts could lighten up some. Hearing that the people around them wanted to kill themselves, the remaining 11 people gathered together and looked at the people surrounding them in horror. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 588. Nicholas looked at the people gathered around, sighed and said, "Forget it. Everyone. If these people stop talking nonsense, don't kill them." Okay. Let's start working. According to what was discussed yesterday, we will first select some buildings, tidy them up, and decide where we will live in the future. Remember, it must be close to the entrance and exit, not too far away. There's no telling when the Dark Devourer will come back. Smith jumped out to smooth things over at this time, waved his hand and said, "Assign some people to go out and find those who haven't received the news before. Try to get everyone together. Anyway, the place here is big enough." "Then, what about the people who got the news before but didn't come?" asked a survivor. He was at the scene when Wang Feng spoke. But he remembered what Wang Feng said. If he didn't come at that time, he would wait until they defeated after meeting the Dark Bloodthirsty. "I would never accept it again if I thought about it." This. Smith hesitated for a moment, then looked at Nicholas. Nicholas also lowered his head and thought for a while, and then said, "Bring it over." He was talking about defeating the Dark Bloodthirsty. Now ours is not a victory. It can only be said to be a period of peace. We don't know when we will fight again. Get up. Besides, if we don't accept them, they will still turn into dark bloodthirsty people if they are captured. Instead, it will increase the number of our enemies. So don't worry about so many people and try to gather all the people in the continent. It's better here." Smith looked at the person who asked him just now and said, "Did you hear that? Just do it. Hurry up, the more people come back, the better." All the survivors around him dispersed. Smith looked at the 11 people who were still trembling in the same place and said, "Get out of here quickly, we won't accept you here, you bastards. If it weren't for Nicholas, you wouldn't be here today. Stay here forever." When the 11 people heard that they were being driven away, they were about to plead for mercy, but when they heard Smith's words behind them, they didn't dare. After looking around, they chose a direction where there seemed to be less people, and fled for their lives. After they also left, and only Smith and Nicholas were left, Smith looked at Nicholas and asked, "You didn't let us kill them just now, was it really just because you thought today was a good day?" "Of course not," Nicholas shook his head. "I left them alive just to prevent those guys from thinking that after killing these 11 people, they just repaid Feng's kindness. Do you think that their enthusiasm just now was largely due to their inner feelings? Killing them at this time will only make those guys think that the debt we owe to those Easterners has been repaid a little. It is not so much that we are killing for those Easterners, but that we are doing it to make them. Only when you feel at ease will you kill someone. Wouldn't it be better to reduce the debt in everyone's hearts?" Smith asked with some doubts. "Let this feeling stay in our hearts forever." Nicholas raised his head and let the drizzle hit his face, Sometimes, it is not a bad thing to have some gratitude, some guilt in your heart. At least people living in this apocalypse need this. After hearing what Nicholas said, Smith nodded silently, then pulled the automatic rifle on his back and looked at it carefully. When Wang Feng left, he didn't even take back the guns and ammunition he had given them before. He understood that Wang Feng would never forget it, but Wang Feng knew that these guys really needed this, and Chris also knew that Wang Feng had a base in Dongzhou continent and had these millions population. These weapons and ammunition are also very useful to him. Wang Feng also mentioned the origin of these weapons and ammunition before. They knew that Wang Feng used medicine to exchange them in the North Continent, and they were going to go back to equip their own army. When Wang Feng gave them weapons and ammunition, he joked that let them save some money and take it back when they leave. But Wang Feng left all these things to them so casually, and slipped away quietly. None of these survivors were stupid, and they all saw clearly what Wang Feng did. Of course Wang Feng didn't know that such a big show was staged among the survivors after he left, but even if he knew, he probably wouldn't be interested in watching it. The most important thing for him now is to return to Chris and relax for a few days, waiting for the results of Chris' research. Thinking about it carefully, since the establishment of the Hope Base, it seems that Wang Feng has been running around non-stop and has never enjoyed a good holiday. This time, he finally has a chance. Because of the special nature of Zizhu continent, mutant beasts and zombies are basically extinct, especially zombies, which should be confirmed to be extinct. Of course, Xiao Wu and the others cannot count, but there may be a few mutant beasts that slip through the net. There are currently only two types of creatures surviving in Zizhu continent, one is human and the other is dark bloodthirsty. But now Wang Feng seems to have established a certain relationship with these two, so although they can be said to be mortal enemies, but for Wang Feng, neither of them is his enemy now. So before Chris's research results came out, even if Wang Feng wanted to do something, he had no place to go. Of course, he could choose to go fishing at sea. But now there are still a few corpses of marine mutant beasts in his apocalypse space. If they only eat for a few people, it will not be a problem for a week, so Wang Feng does not need to worry now. Before leaving, Wang Feng left all the corpses of dark bloodthirsty in the apocalypse space in the underground hall. Originally, he wanted to find a place on the ground to put them, but he found that the hall was empty, and he did not want to meet those people, so he simply stayed in the hall. As for Xiao Wu and the others' rations, they were going to Chris's place to borrow a place anyway. And what Chris lacked the most was dark bloodthirsty, and they were fresh. After all, they were guests, and they were guests who could provide the source of life. Presumably, such a distinguished guest, eating a little, pet, the owner should not mind, so Wang Feng has told Xiao Wu and others that if they are hungry, they can go find food by themselves, but try not to do it in public, just find those who are alone. As long as they are not found on the spot, even if they are found after the fact, they will just deny it to death, and Wang Feng thinks that even if Chris finds out, he will definitely turn a blind eye to this matter and will not turn against them because of this. Arriving at Chris's lair, what surprised Wang Feng was that the dark bloodthirsty people in the city, after seeing the hurricane, actually acted as if they didn't see it, and let them enter the city openly. Wang Feng decided that after seeing Chris, he must ask him how he made those dark bloodthirsty people recognize that they were the ones who entered the city. Chris and Johnny should not have seen the hurricane, and Wang Feng and others were in the hurricane, and it was impossible to see who was inside from the outside. Wang Feng remembered that Chris had said that the dark bloodthirsty would only go out to capture survivors, but if anyone dared to come to his lair, he would definitely not be polite, except for Wang Feng. Later, Wang Feng really asked Chris this question, and Chris's answer made Wang Feng feel like an idiot in an instant, because Chris's answer was very simple. He said, "Except you, who dares to drive a car and rush into my city?" That's right. Even if those survivors wanted to kill Chris and avenge their relatives, they would definitely gather as many people as possible and start from the outside. Only Wang Feng would drive a car straight into the main entrance of the underground fortress, so those dark bloodthirsty people ignored him. With Xiao Wu and the others, they came to Chris's laboratory without any hindrance. Outside the door of the laboratory, there were 300 or 400 dark bloodthirsty people guarding. These dark bloodthirsty people seemed to know Wang Feng. After seeing him come in, they directly opened the door and let them in. Chris and Johnny were no different from when Wang Feng left last time. They were still busy among a bunch of instruments, and they didn't even notice Wang Feng and his team came in. It wasn't until Wang Feng walked over and called Chris for the third time that Chris reacted and looked up. When he found that it was Wang Feng, his wrinkled face suddenly became excited, which made Wang Feng excited. Because looking at Chris's expression, it was easy to think that he had made some breakthroughs in his research, but the first thing Chris said was, "Why is it so late? Where is the life source today? Hurry up, I'm going to run out of it." Wang Feng couldn't help but be surprised. You know, the life potion he gave Chris was not the kind given to awakened people. Most of it was life energy, and only contained a little life source. What he gave Chris was the complete life source, without even life energy. One bottle was enough to equal at least hundreds of bottles of ordinary life potions. I didn't expect Chris to use it up so quickly. You didn't drink it yourself, Wang Feng asked a little doubtfully. How could it be so fast? Drank it yourself, Chris rolled his eyes, but his eyes were originally more white than black, so the roll of his eyes was not discovered by Wang Feng and seemed very hidden. Such a powerful energy, if I, an enhancer, drink it, I will explode and die directly. Do you think I would be so stupid? You said that you can give me so much life essence every day, of course I don't need to save it. In this way, my research speed will be greatly improved. If you are worried that I will embezzle, you can find someone to watch me in the future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 589. Hearing Chris's words, Wang Feng shook his head and said, "That's not necessary. For me, the life source will recover a little every day. As long as you can unlock the seal, I didn't plan to take back the rest. What I'm worried about is just what you said just now. Your strength is too low. If you drink so much life source at once, the powerful life energy will directly burst your body. Since you know this, I don't need to say more." "Humph," Chris snorted in dissatisfaction, "don't forget what I do. If I can't even analyze the ingredients and functions of your potion, is it possible to complete your commission? But then again, I have analyzed the bottle of evolution potion you gave me. It is indeed magical. Even without the addition of life source, it can actually improve people's strength without any side effects, and the ingredients are all known to me. But the strange thing is that I can't make this kind of potion myself, even if I already know the proportion of your potion. From a scientific point of view, this is simply impossible, but there may be some key points that I haven't discovered yet. Put this aside for now, wait until I find the mysterious power that can break the seal in the human body, and then study your potion. Now give me the source of life, and then you can do whatever you want." Chris is not polite at all when talking to Wang Feng now, one because this is a habit he has developed since before the end of the world, and the other is that he has not seen Wang Feng's strength with his own eyes. In Chris's opinion, Wang Feng is definitely more powerful than him, but now he is in his lair, tens of millions of dark bloodthirsty people are now gathered here. No matter how powerful the person is, he should not dare to fight with him here, right? Besides, Wang Feng's goal is to unlock the seal. Chris is confident that if he can't unlock it, then no one will be able to unlock the seal. Therefore, before unlocking the seal, Wang Feng will never touch him, and will even protect him. As for finding a way to unlock the seal, wouldn't he do some tricks? Anyway, he is an absolute expert in this regard. If he does some tricks, other people won't be able to see it. And Chris is not very worldly wise at all, because all his energy is put into his own research. Anyone who has come into contact with him will think that he has a weird temperament. In fact, he just thinks that time is precious and there is no need to waste it on hypocrisy between people, so he always says what he wants and never hides his emotions. If he hates you, he will drive you away directly. If he doesn't hate you, so far, he has not met anyone he doesn't hate. Wang Feng doesn't care about Chris's attitude. He directly takes out the life potion that Apocalypse has just made from the Apocalypse space, gives it to Chris, and then leaves the laboratory with Xiao Wu and others. As for his need to stay overnight, he didn't tell Chris at all. Anyway, Chris wouldn't come out to help him arrange it. He might as well find a place by himself. He might as well go out and see where he likes and stay. Driving the Hurricane, he wandered around the city full of dark bloodthirsters. In the end, Wang Feng chose to live on the top floor of the tallest building in the city. Because the view here is vast, plus Wang Feng's sky eye, basically any movement in the city and the surroundings can't be hidden from Wang Feng, and you can also barbecue on the rooftop, which happens to be an environment that Wang Feng likes, so Wang Feng stayed here and started his first long vacation after the end of the world. Wang Feng's vacation this time lasted for a whole month, which made Wang Feng very depressed. There was only more than half a year before the Devourer came. Apart from the time he needed to go back, the days left for Wang Feng were really few and far between. However, because it was Chris who was doing the research, Wang Feng had no choice no matter how anxious he was. This was not a battle, and he could not help at all. So all he could do was to send the source of life to Chris every day, and then do nothing. During this period, Wang Feng had also gone to the beach several times to replenish his inventory in the Apocalypse space. Not to mention, during this period, every time Wang Feng finished the barbecue, he would send some to Chris and the others, which made Chris become much more polite to Wang Feng. Finally, on the 31st day after Wang Feng moved here, Chris sent a dark bloodthirsty to find Wang Feng. The anxious Wang Feng, of course, did not say anything and flew directly to the underground fortress and came to Chris's laboratory. I may have found a way, but I need someone to do the experiment. Seeing Wang Feng, Chris did not greet him at all, and said this directly. Is this experiment safe? Wang Feng asked after a moment of hesitation. If it's safe, then it's not an experiment, Chris said unhappily, and don't even think about letting me experiment on you. If you die, I won't have the source of life, and I need at least 20 or 30 people, so, should I send the dark bloodthirsters to capture them, or do you guys do it? This. Wang Feng hesitated. Experimenting on a living person, and there are great risks, is definitely a conscience torture for Wang Feng, but Wang Feng didn't hesitate for long, and directly responded. I'll go. Okay. Go now. Remember, at least 20, the more the better. The sooner the better. After saying that, Chris no longer paid attention to Wang Feng, and turned around to continue fiddling with the bottles and jars in front of him. After Wang Feng came out of the underground fortress, he called Xiao Wu and the others directly, and then drove the Hurricane towards the previous underground fortress. The reason why Wang Feng decided to come by himself was that if the dark bloodthirsty appeared, it would be equivalent to violating the previous agreement. It can be imagined that the war between the survivors and the dark bloodthirsty will be ignited again, so if the dark bloodthirsty came, although they only wanted to capture 20 or 30 people back, the number of survivors who died would definitely exceed this number by 10 times or even 100 times. After getting to know Chris during this period of time, Wang Feng also knew that every time Chris said he wanted something, it meant that if he didn't give it to him, it would affect the speed of his research, and it might even interrupt his research. For example, this time, Chris did not say what to do if he could not find so many people. If there was no backup option, then his subtext was that I must have these people, otherwise the research could not continue. On the way there, Wang Feng was entangled again. He thought about how he should tell Nicholas and the others about this matter. There was no doubt that he could not tell the truth directly like last time, which was purely courting death. If he really did this, it would be equivalent to a complete break with the survivors, and there would be no room for redemption. Those survivors saw their relatives or friends being captured by the dark bloodthirsty, and when they returned again, they had become the dark bloodthirsty and their enemies. The current situation is almost the same as before, because no one knows what will happen to the experimental subjects after the experiment. The seal may be unlocked, or nothing may happen. Both of these can be accepted, but the worst-case scenario is that the experimental subject will be mutated and become a new type of monster. In that case, Wang Feng will be an accomplice. Strictly speaking, Chris's accomplice is no different from those dark bloodthirsty people. After thinking about it, Wang Feng finally decided to go in and see the situation on either side before making a decision. Confucius once said, "There must be a way when the car reaches the mountain, and there will be girls only when the money is in place." God will not starve the sparrow to death, and capturing prisoners will not be difficult for Wang Feng. Returning to the city he defended in the past, Wang Feng's eyes lit up. It seems that Nicholas and his team are quite efficient. The city in front of him has undergone great changes. A wall has been built, although it looks relatively simple. This wall is circular, framing a large area in the center of the city, but most of the materials of this wall are scrapped cars or some construction waste. Not only does it look ugly, but its defense is obviously not very good. However, this wall is just like the wall in Ganlin County at the beginning. Its symbolic meaning far exceeds its practical meaning. Seeing the familiar hurricane, the guards of the city quickly jumped down the wall and came to the front of the hurricane. Wang Feng cooperated and opened the car door, allowing the guard to enter the hurricane for inspection. Wang Feng could fully understand this. After all, he came from Chris, and the survivors here should always be careful with him. After confirming that there were only the Orientals who left before in the car, the guard waved his hand and signaled to let him go. Driving the hurricane armor into the city, looking at the situation along the way, Wang Feng nodded repeatedly. Now this city is really much worse than when Wang Feng first came here. Hurricane had just driven halfway, and Wang Feng found Nicholas, Liana, and Smith came up with a group of people. It turned out that Nicholas had not been idle during this period of time. They restored communication and repaired the monitoring system. After all, their population base is large, so choosing a few people who can repair the communication system and monitoring system is nothing at all. After the guards discovered the hurricane, they notified Nicholas immediately. Nicholas naturally did not dare to neglect it and directly brought a few people out to greet Wang Feng. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 590. After seeing Wang Feng, Nicholas seemed a little embarrassed and just nodded, not knowing what he should say. However, Wang Feng saw Nicholas' embarrassment and went up to hug Nicholas according to the custom of Zizhu continent. Then he let go of Nicholas, hugged Smith behind him, and said, "You guy, you suddenly became so deep, I'm not used to it." As for Liana, Wang Feng shook hands politely and did not go up to hug her. After all, hugging his wife in front of her husband is not a happy thing. "What? We haven't seen each other for a month, so you don't know us anymore." After greeting other people he knew one by one, Wang Feng said jokingly. "Didn't I say that? Although I want to protect Chris for the time being, I also want to use him to study how to unlock the seal in the human body. The agreement we reached is limited to this. I just need him to crack it. As long as you don't die before that seal, we won't interfere with the rest." After hearing Wang Feng's words, Nicholas' expression finally became more natural. Seeing this situation, Wang Feng patted Nicholas on the shoulder and said, "What? Don't you take us into your new headquarters to have a look?" Nicholas just woke up from a dream and took Wang Feng and others all the way to his headquarters. In fact, Nicholas' headquarters was in the building where they smashed all the windows before. They didn't regret why they smashed all the windows in the first place, so that they didn't even have a window after they moved in, because they didn't need it. And even now, they haven't patched up the glass. It's not that they can't find the glass, but they think that although Chris promised that the dark bloodthirsty would not appear outside, this promise would not work after Wang Feng left Zizhu continent. It should be abolished. So instead of repairing the windows of these buildings, they spent several days smashing all the windows of the buildings where they lived in the city center and near the entrances. Moreover, absolute darkness such as basements, which can provide hiding places for dark bloodthirsty people, are either blocked or demolished by them. In short, they are now doing their best to arrange the city into a battlefield most unsuitable for dark bloodthirsty battles. But it only refers to situations where there is sufficient sunlight, cloudy days, and dark nights. For the dark bloodthirsty, there is no battlefield that is not suitable for them. What they fear is just the sunlight. Because when Wang Feng and the others were here, Nicholas had always acted as his spokesperson, so after Wang Feng left, probably out of previous habits, the survivors directly recommended Nicholas, Liana, Smith, etc. The person who had been closest to Wang Feng before served as their commander. After arriving at Nicholas' office at the top of the building, everyone found a place to sit down. Then Nicholas looked at Wang Feng and hesitated. He wanted to ask Wang Feng what happened when he came back this time, but he felt like asking doesn't seem good. Wang Feng smiled directly and said, "I do have something to do when I come back this time. The first is to see how your base is doing, and the second is to tell you some information about Chris." Hearing Wang Feng's words, everyone's ears suddenly stood up. As for the situation over Chris, they had sent people to go there, but that city was full of dark bloodthirsty people, and they couldn't get close at all. Although the construction of the base is not ideal, after all, you only spent a month to get it like this, which is already considered very good. Wang Feng first affirmed their achievements, and then began to introduce the situation in Chris's lair. As for Chris, I can only say that you currently don't have much ability to attack them. According to the numbers I have now, if Chris has indeed recalled all the dark bloodthirsty people, then the number of dark bloodthirsty people he has in his hands has exceeded 20 million, and this is still just from what I saw. I believe that there must be other dark bloodthirsty hidden in Chris's lair that we have not discovered. At least we only have a cooperative relationship with Chris, so it is impossible for him to show all his cards in front of us, but even these current dark bloodthirsty ones should not be something you can deal with now. I even think that if Chris sends all these dark bloodthirsty people out on a day when the apocalypse suits them to attack your city, there will be no way to resist their attack unless you hide in the underground fortress. Feng. In fact, after you left, we also seriously thought about revenge. At least for now, it is impossible. We have summoned almost all the survivors in Zizhu continent to us. At this time, Nicholas said. After gathering them here, we told them what happened before and also told them that we were going to seek revenge from Chris. However, few of those guys responded to this matter. There were even many people jumped out and said that now they just want a stable life. It is their dream that Chris would not come out to make trouble. Instead, they advised us not to provoke him. And as this month has passed, more and more people have the same idea as them. In fact, you don't need to tell me, we also know that with our current power, we want to copy Chris. The result is that the entire army may be annihilated. It's just that Liana has never given up the idea of revenge, but now she also knows that she can't act too hastily, and she didn't rush me like before. Finally, Nicholas looked at Liana, shrugged and said, "Now Nicholas is more powerful than just now when he saw Wang Feng. He had already relaxed a lot." And the tone of his words now gradually returned to the previous one, with a hint of respect, as if he had returned to the time when he was working under Wang Feng. Wang Feng looked at Liana and nodded to her, remember. Liana, don't let hatred make you lose your mind. In this way, you will not only destroy yourself, but also bring other people with you. Then, Wang Feng looked at the other people in the room. Actually, if you want to take revenge, you don't have to do it yourself. You can wait for the opportunity and use other powers to weaken your enemies. No matter what, if you want to, it's okay to seek revenge, but the most important thing is that you must not involve yourself in it just for the sake of revenge. I think you are mainly developing first, and you must not give up on the underground fortress. I don't know about Nanzhou continent, but compared with Bizhou and Dongzhou, the overall strength of your Zizhou continent can only be judged from this aspect of human beings. If you look at it, it's the weakest. But if you include the dark bloodthirsty, then the power of the Zizhou continent is at least beyond that of the Bizhou continent. So when the Devourer army comes to our planet, there will definitely be a large number of Devourers appearing on your Zizhou continent. At that time, it is best for you to hide in the underground fortress and let Chris and his dark bloodthirsty fight the Devourer first, consuming both of their strength, while you can look for opportunities to attack. So what you have to do now is actually very simple. Dig deep, accumulate food, slowly claim the throne, and accumulate strength. According to my estimation, when the Devourer invades, it will definitely attack 4 continents at the same time. I know the strength of Bizhou continent very well. Even if Zizhou continent counts the power of the dark bloodthirsty, they will never be much weaker than you. As for our Dongzhou continent, to be honest, we only count our hope base. The strength is stronger than the strength of your 2 continents combined. The Devourer has the ability to detect living things, so what you have to do now is not to cause trouble for Chris, but to dig this underground fortress as deep as possible and store more food. When the Devourer arrives, you all hide for a while, and you may be able to survive until the end. Remember, you can only take revenge if you are alive. And if the dark bloodthirsty ones are completely wiped out by the Devourer, and you are still alive, then in fact, it is equivalent to getting revenge, although it is not so happy. That's all I can advise you. As for what to do, it's up to you to decide. Anyway, you already know Chris's strength now. In addition, if I get a way to break the seal, I will come back and tell you. Then I will leave, and if I can kill the Devourer, maybe we can meet again. Wind. Why are you so sure that Devourer will attack 4 continents at the same time? Instead of concentrating its forces to attack one, Smith couldn't help but ask. Because if that's the case, then we are doomed, Wang Feng replied calmly, and then stood up. Call everyone, let's have a barbecue party. I recently went out to sea for a fishing trip. Some fish back. In the end, Wang Feng still did not say that he needed humans to conduct experiments, because after seeing Nicholas and the others, Wang Feng suddenly felt that he could not tell this matter anyway. Feng. Wait. There is another matter that we think you need to handle yourself. Nicholas also stood up, looked at Wang Feng and said, do you remember those 12 people who you didn't send potions to before? When after you left, they began to slander you, and then I killed one of them and drove them out. But now, they are still alive, and they have gathered some people and occupied a small town. Now that town is basically full of people who hate you to the core.